The FIA has just put Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari under new tests at Silverstone, and what they found could change the entire way this race is remembered. Because Ferrari did not simply win. Leclerc took victory. Hamilton climbed onto the podium. The red cars locked first and third at one of the toughest circuits in Formula One. But behind that result, there was a false start investigation, a 5-second penalty, a furious Hamilton, a shocked Leclerc, and a Ferrari car that suddenly looked fast enough for every rival to start asking uncomfortable questions. And this is the dangerous part. Ferrari were not perfect. They lost second place late. They made Hamilton fight through chaos. They had their progress questioned in the paddock. And they still left Silverstone with a win. So now the real question is not whether Hamilton's car passed the spotlight. The real question is much bigger. Did the FIA's new tests prove Ferrari's rise is legitimate? Or did Silverstone reveal the hidden weakness that could destroy their entire comeback? Subscribe to the channel. Editor. Silverstone was supposed to give Ferrari a celebration. A clean one. The kind of Sunday where the garage opens its arms, the mechanics smile, the cameras find the red shirts, and the story writes itself. Charles Leclerc wins the British Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton stands on the podium in Ferrari colors at home. The team leaves with first and third, and the message to the rest of Formula One sounds simple. Ferrari is back. But Silverstone did not give them something simple. It gave them something much more dangerous. A victory with questions attached. Because the moment the FIA began looking closer at Hamilton's car, the meaning of the race started to shift. The result was still there. The trophy was still there. The podium was still there. But the feeling around it changed. Suddenly, this was not only a story about speed. It became a story about pressure, scrutiny, and whether Ferrari's sudden rise could survive being placed under a brighter light. And that is exactly why Leclerc's reaction matters. Leclerc did not just watch Hamilton have a normal difficult race. He watched Hamilton move through a weekend that kept changing shape. First, there was uncertainty in practice. Hamilton admitted the Ferrari had scared him, and for a driver with his experience, that is not a throwaway line. When someone like Hamilton says the car scared him, it means the feeling inside the cockpit was not giving him the trust he needed. That is where the weekend really began. Not with the podium. With doubt. Then came the surprise. Hamilton produced a stunning sprint pole, by only 11 thousandths of a second ahead of Antonelli. 11 thousandths. That is almost nothing to the human eye. You cannot feel it in normal life. You cannot count it naturally. It is smaller than the time it takes to blink and realize you blinked. But in Formula One, that tiny margin can change the mood of an entire garage. One lap can turn doubt into belief. One lap can make mechanics stand taller. One lap can make a team principal rethink what is possible. And for Ferrari, Hamilton's sprint pole mattered because it came immediately after discomfort. That is the sign of something important. Not just speed but recovery. Not just talent but control under pressure. Hamilton had been unsettled by the car, then found a way to make it perform when the moment demanded it. That would have caught Leclerc's attention. Because Leclerc understands Ferrari pressure better than almost anyone. He knows what it means to carry hope in red. He knows what it feels like when a promising weekend begins to bend under expectation. He knows how quickly a Ferrari story can turn from celebration into criticism. So when Hamilton transformed uncertainty into performance, Leclerc would have seen more than a fast lap. He would have seen a warning. Hamilton was not there just to take part in Ferrari's project. He was there to change the level of the team. But then race day arrived and the story turned again. Hamilton was investigated for a false start, and by lap 6, the penalty came. 5 seconds. 5 seconds sounds small. It was not small. In Formula One, 5 seconds can become a wall. It sits in the background of every decision. It changes the way a driver attacks. It changes the way a team thinks about strategy. It changes the way rivals behave around you because they know you are already carrying a hidden loss. Imagine running a race with a weight tied to your ankle, while everyone else pretends they cannot see it. That was Hamilton's situation. You still had the pace. You still had the car. You still had the crowd behind him. But now, every move had a cost. If he defended too hard, he risked losing tire life. If he attacked too early, he risked exposing himself later. If Ferrari made the wrong call, the penalty could become even more damaging. That is why the FIA scrutiny changed the emotional tone of the race. It did not only punish Hamilton. It forced Ferrari into a more complicated version of itself. Leclerc at the front had a cleaner job. He launched perfectly, moved ahead of Antonelli, and took control from the opening lap. That gave Ferrari clean air, and clean air at Silverstone is like having the road to yourself while everyone behind is trapped in traffic. The car breathes better. The tires suffer less. The driver can build rhythm. Leclerc had the race Ferrari wanted. Hamilton had the race Ferrari feared. And inside that contrast, the whole weekend became more revealing. Because Ferrari needed both cars to deliver, but they were asking those cars to survive completely different battles. Leclerc had to protect a win. Hamilton had to repair damage. Leclerc had to stay calm. Hamilton had to fight through frustration. Leclerc could manage from the front. Hamilton had to make decisions in traffic, under pressure, with time already owed to the stewards. That is not just a race split. That is a stress test for the entire team. And this is where the wider pressure around Ferrari becomes impossible to ignore. Ferrari's performance at Silverstone did not happen in a quiet paddock. It happened while rivals were already looking at Maranello with suspicion. Toto Wolff had suggested Ferrari might be getting close to the cost cap because of the updates they had been bringing. That kind of comment may sound like politics, but in Formula One, politics can be a weapon. A driver does not trust a pit wall because of one good call. He trusts it because, again and again, when the race becomes chaotic, the team gives him information that feels sharp, calm, and correct. At Silverstone, Hamilton needed exactly that kind of trust. Because after the penalty, the race was no longer straightforward. Ferrari had to think about when to stop him, how to protect his pace, and whether his final position would survive the time added from the penalty. At the same time, they had to keep Leclerc safely in the lead. This was not a race Ferrari could manage on instinct. They needed precision. And for a while, precision seemed possible. Leclerc kept the race under control. He did not let the pressure turn into panic. Antonelli could not erase the gap for much of the race, and Ferrari's tire management looked good enough to keep the victory alive. Hamilton, meanwhile, kept pulling himself back into contention. That is the part people should not overlook. A weaker driver might have let the frustration consume the race. A less experienced driver might have burned through the tires trying to recover too quickly. Hamilton did neither. He kept the car in the fight. He waited for the race to come back toward him. And when the chance arrived, he was ready to make it count. This is why Leclerc's surprise is so important. Because from the outside, people may see Hamilton finishing third and think it was simply a decent podium. Inside Ferrari, it meant more than that. It showed that even when Hamilton's race is damaged early, he can still force his way back into the center of the result. That changes what Ferrari can expect from him. It also changes what Ferrari owes him. Because if a driver keeps recovering compromised races, the team cannot keep asking him to accept compromised execution. Sooner or later, recovery has to become reward. And Silverstone came painfully close to becoming exactly that. As the laps passed, the entire race began to move toward Ferrari. Leclerc still had control. Hamilton was still alive. Verstappen was in the fight, but he was no longer out of reach. Mercedes still mattered, but the race had not escaped Ferrari. Then Hamilton made the move that reopened everything. On lap 38, he passed Verstappen and moved into third. That was a huge moment. Not because third was the final target, but because third put Hamilton back into position to benefit if anything happened ahead. It transformed his race from damage limitation into real opportunity. It told Ferrari that the penalty had not beaten him. It told Leclerc that his teammate was still coming. It told the crowd that Hamilton's home Grand Prix still had life. And then, only a few laps later, the race gave Ferrari something even bigger. Antonelli retired with a technical problem on lap 42. That changed everything. Leclerc's victory suddenly looked almost secure. Hamilton, now effectively moved forward by Antonelli's exit, had a real path towards second. Ferrari were close to a 1-2 at Silverstone, after a race that had begun with investigation, pressure, penalty, and doubt. That would have been enormous, not just for the points, for the message. A Ferrari 1-2 at Silverstone would have turned the entire paddock conversation upside down. The FIA scrutiny around Hamilton would have become a side note. The cost cap noise would have looked like rival frustration. The early penalty would have become part of a heroic recovery. Leclerc's victory would have been matched by Hamilton's redemption. That was the perfect Ferrari ending. It was close enough to feel real. And that is exactly why what happened next hurt so much. Because Formula One has a way of saving its cruelest twist for the moment a team starts to believe the danger has passed. Ferrari had survived the early investigation. Ferrari had survived the penalty. Ferrari had survived Mercedes' pressure. Ferrari had survived the middle phase of the race. Leclerc had control. Hamilton had recovered. The 1-2 was there, almost within reach. But Silverstone was not finished. And the final test would not be about pure speed. It would be about the one thing Ferrari still had to prove: decision-making under chaos.